Welcome back to another completely useless video, or if you're new, welcome to 7 of the most useless minutes of your life. There are 3 certainties in life: death, taxes, and people saying that New Zealand are dark horses in an ICC tournament. That sentiment might be reflected in this all-time 11. They've produced a fair few good players, but they don't have the stars or the depth that other countries have. Up until the 80s, they were quite a poor team. And then, just a few years later, they became arguably the best team in the world. They were so close to winning the 1992 World Cup, and probably would have if it weren't for Inzi and Miandad. Here, we're going to make a Kiwi all-time 11. We've already made teams for the big 3 boards, so check those videos out where I go over the rules. Onto the shortlist, and unlike the previous countries, I think that there will be far fewer options to choose from. New Zealand don't have a great pedigree for openers in Test cricket. However, there's a few good options in ODIs. There's Glenn Turner, the one man who belongs in both camps. He once had the record for the highest individual ODI score of 171. Next, the captain of the New Zealand team in that 1992 World Cup, a man who led New Zealand from a second-rate team to the best team in the world, and maybe the best Kiwi batter of all time, Martin Crowe. Another player remembered as a great captain, but in this case, maybe it diverts attention away from how good a batter he was, Stephen Fleming. There's also Nathan Assel. He holds the record for the quickest Test double ton, and is also remembered as a free-scoring batter in ODIs, although his strike rate doesn't really reflect that. But then someone whose strike rate does reflect how explosive he was, Brendan McCullum. Next, a man who most people only remember for 2 reasons: 237 and a run-out. Yep, it's Martin Guptill. And finally, the rest of the Fab Four have all featured, so it's only right that we include Kane Williamson. Onto the middle order, and there's not really that many good ones. Most of them are modern era players, and the older era ones are more all-rounders. In fact, all-rounders might be a bit generous. There's Chris Cairns, who's certainly an all-rounder, but the rest don't really excel in one department. There's Chris Harris, Craig McMillan, Scott Cyrus, and I'll also throw Jacob Oram in here. But the genuine middle-order batters will include Grant Elliott, Ross Taylor, Tom Latham, and Daryl Mitchell. With spinners, we're not really blessed with options. There's of course Dan Vettori and Mitchell Santner, and then I'm struggling. Ish Sodhi, Jeetan Patel, Nathan McCullum? Not exactly all-time 11 quality. Thankfully, the fast bowlers have a little more depth. And where better to start than the legendary Sir Richard Hadley, the best ever cricketer to come out of this country. The other great bowlers in the 80s were Ewan Chatfield and Martin Snedden. And after the turn of the millennium, we see Kyle Mills, and one of the most exciting bowlers ever, someone who could have surpassed Richard Hadley had it not been for injuries, Shane Bond. And then also a trio of modern players, Tim Southey, Trent Boult, and Matt Henry. So, let's make a team. Easiest first pick, Dan Vettori. I can't see Mitch Santner making the team, sadly. He fills exactly the same role as Vettori. I imagine we'll bat Vettori at 8, but we can move him around if need be. Another easy pick is Richard Hadley, the best bowler and a handy batter too. I think we'll put him at 7 for now. While we're here, we might as well finish the bowling. I think Shane Bond and Trent Boult definitely get in. Shane Bond's career was spectacular, and while it wasn't long, it was long enough. I think Trent Boult is the pick of the rest, and he's a left-armer, which I always like including. Now, we have our 4 frontline bowlers, so let's move on to the batting. I think our 3, 4 and 5 work out quite nicely. Kane Williamson, Martin Crowe, and Ross Taylor. I'm not thrilled about Taylor batting down at 5. I think he's a wonderful number 4. But I just don't see how any of them can miss out, and this works at least quite well. I also think 6 is another relatively easy pick. Chris Cairns. He was a good batter with a very good strike rate, and he is an excellent 4th choice seamer. So now we have to work out our openers. I think McCullum has to make it. Given the solidarity of our middle order, and the fact that we have Vittoria 8, we can afford to have a boom or bust opener. Another reason? He's a good keeper, and we need a keeper. As for the other pick, I think Guptill is the best ODI batter of the lot, but Fleming is in with a shout purely because he's a left-hander, otherwise the entirety of our top 6 are righties. Now, I do like having a bit of variety where possible, but I only really look at handedness when it's a marginal decision, and this decision is not marginal. Guptill is a far better batter, so I'm going with him. Now, we bat till 8, we have 4 top quality seamers and a good spinner. What do we do with our last player? It would make sense that we go with a second spinner, considering that at the moment, Martin Crowe is our only other real bowling option. The problem is, we can either go for a frontline spinner, none of whom would add much to either the batting or the bowling, or we can go with a middle order batter who bowls some part-time spin. Now, that second idea sounds pretty sensible, but the problem is the only person who fulfills that role on our shortlist is Mitch Santner. If we look at our other options, we can look to the likes of Shane Thompson, Nathan McCullum, or Glenn Phillips. Alternatively, we can just say, screw it, we don't need another spinner, we'll go with a medium pace bowler, in which case we need to look at Chris Harris or Scott Styris. Of all these choices, I think Scott Styris is the way to go. He's a good finisher and a nice sneaky bowler, which gives us a little bit of variety in our bowling attack. Glenn Phillips could make it by the time he retires, but as of now, I don't think he makes it. So, that's 2 very dangerous openers in Baz and Guptill, pure class in the middle order with Williamson, Crowe and Taylor, good finishers in Cairns and Styris, and Hadley and Vittori is a superb 8 and 9. Hadley, Bond, Bolt is an awesome pace attack. Add Chris Cairns and Styris in the middle overs, and a lone spinner in Vittori is a very good team for such a small country. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, or if you didn't, hopefully you at least managed to kill a few minutes and think about cricket for a bit. Feel free to leave any thoughts or your own 11s in the comments, and you can subscribe if you never want to miss a useless video. Bye all!